To order. We want to welcome everyone here for House Standing Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Protection. In just a sec, I want to mention a few things here. Please, if you would, silence your cell phones in the audience there. That would cut down on distractions. Please use the sign-in sheet. I believe it is still sitting up there right now. If you would like to speak, it could be a long topic, so we're going to have to probably limit speaking, and we'll split that evenly as we see how much time we have available. And then there are no signs. Looks like y'all have done that well. And please be respectful of all people in the room in the process. That is the new overflow? Mm-hmm. Okay. There is an overflow room in 125. If some of the doorkeepers need to mention that, it looks like we got a pretty full house here. And I believe 154, if you're in support of this measure, I believe is also an overflow room too. So at that, we'll have Mr. Secretary, please call roll.
Representative Blanton, Representative Dossett, Representative Duplessis, here. Representative Freeland,
here.
Representative Fugit, Representative Gentry, Representative Gooch,
present in my annex office.
thank you. Representative Hart,
present in the room.
Representative Cook,
Here in the room.
Representative Lewis,
Here in the room.
Representative Maddox,
Here.
Representative Massey,
Here in the room.
Representative Minter,
Here.
Representative Sharp, Representative Stevenson, here. Representative Tackett Lafferty, Representative Wesley,
In the room.
Representative Wheatley,
Here.
Representative McCool,
Here.
Chair Thomas.
Present. All right. For those in the audience, and you see some of our members coming and going, we do have an A&R meeting that's important, so they bounce back and forth to record votes there. So at this time, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing afterwards, and I've asked Representative Duplessis to lead us in prayer. Alrighty. Well, it is our tradition that we always start with honoring some distinguished veterans, and today we knew we'd have so many people attending that we thought we'd have two distinguished vets today. So at this time, I am going to refer to Representative Hart, who is going to do a little bio on our first distinguished vet. And yes, ma'am, would you come and sit at the center table there? We want all these cameras to be on you now.
She might go home. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce to the committee and to everyone Lieutenant Colonel retired Robin C. Higgins of the United States Army. Colonel Higgins was born and raised in Falmouth, Kentucky, where she attended Pendleton County Memorial High School. Upon graduation, Robin attended Eastern Kentucky University, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology, as well as a commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army Signal Corps. From EKU's Reserve Officer Training Corps program. After graduating from EKU, Robin was stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia to attend the Signal Corps Officers Basic Course. In addition to the Signal Corps Officer Basic Course, Robin's military education includes attending the Signal Officer Advanced Course, the Communications Electronics Staff Officer Course, the Combined Arms and Services Staff School, Air Assault, Command and General Staff College, and the Army Inspector General course. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to to Robin and welcome her to this committee and say we are very, very pleased to have you.
Well, first, let me start by saying that it's just an honor to be here and to be recognized. And I would like to say thank you to Representative Hart. He never fails to recognize and to nominate me for many veteran opportunities, and one of those being serving on the Governor's Advisory Board for the Veterans Affairs. And I just want him to know how much I truly appreciate him for doing so. Mark and I have a very long history. We're from the same small hometown, and we have several things in common. And you know, the way that I got to know Representative Hart is that I shared a homeroom, I think from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade with his older brother, Philip. And so my family and the Hart families, we've known each other for my entire life. And through Philip, I got to know Mark, who folks in our hometown always refer to, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, they refer to him and his brother Marty as the twins. And that's just a little bit of trivia for those of you who may not have known that. Besides being from the same hometown, another thing that Representative Hart and I have in common is a heart for service, and that's H-E-A-R-T for service. My entire adult life has been in service to my country, and I now work in an organization that is in service to veterans. Even the focal point of my doctorate, which I just earned this past May, was trying to find a better way to serve our female veteran population. So that was the focal point of my dissertation. And it's obvious that Representative Hart, he well serves the people of his district. You can go to Falmouth at any given time, and there's nothing but good things that are said about what he's doing and how he is representing, you know, the folks from Falmouth and from particularly Pendleton County. I, for one, think that we've come a long way from our childhood days running the streets and playing in the streets of Falmouth. And Mark, you make me so very proud of you, and I know that you always say that you're proud of the service that I have committed my life to, but I'm also proud of the service that you've committed your life to as well. I was asked to give just a little bit of information. I know that we have a full schedule today, and I'm not going to take up very much time, but one of the reasons that I joined the military, and actually it was by mistake, I kind of fell into the ROTC program, not actually knowing what it was going to entail. And I loved it, and I found an affinity for something. And the military enriched my life in ways that I never thought possible or that I never even dreamed of to begin with. It has allowed me to travel, and it has also allowed me to expand my horizons behind any and beyond any horizons that I even knew existed. And so that's why I say that it's not what I did for the service or what I did during my time in the military, but it is absolutely what it has done for me and what it has brought to my life. So again, I know this is a very busy day and there's a lot on your schedule. So I just want to say thank you again for allowing me these few precious moments to speak. And Mark, thank you again. And if there's anything else you need me for, I am available, always here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Higgins. We appreciate your service. If you would like, I'm going to have Representative Hart come with a little token of our appreciation for your service, and we love doing this. And maybe if they're Bud's here for a picture anyway there, so. That's better than the handshake. Thank you so much. Well, now we have another distinguished vet. Excited. We could honor vets all day long, but we do have a full agenda. But we have another one, and so I'm going to turn the floor over to Representative Massey to introduce our second distinguished vet.
Thank you, Chair. And I would ask that Mr. Tolliver please come forward. And this is not only a dear friend of mine, but a person that has served this country very honorably, as all of our service members do. And he is here with us today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. I asked for a bio, and he gave me a short one and a long one. And we're not going to go with the long one because we would take the entirety of the meeting. But I am going to tell you a little bit about my friend, Mr. Tolliver. He went to Center College in Danville and graduated in 1959 with several awards. Also played football there. Went to the University of Kentucky Law Journal member from 1960 to 62. He's admitted to the Kentucky Bar, the Ohio Bar, the Eastern District of Kentucky Court of Appeals, and the U.S. Supreme Court. He served in the Navy as a lieutenant, and he was in the Philippines, Vietnam, and he received the U.S. Marine Corps Officer of the Day in Subic Bay in 1964. He was an adjunct professor at the Chase College of Law, a member of the Board of Regents for Northern Kentucky University. He was chairman emeritus of the Kentucky State Personnel Board. He was a member of the Greater Cincinnati Bicentennial Commission, board of directors for Tall Stacks, if you remember Tall Stacks that passed through Cincinnati. He was on the Dan Beard Boy Scout Council board of directors from 1990 and may still be involved in that capacity. A district chairman for the Trailblazer District Boy Scouts and member of the board of directors of Mentoring Plus. His accolades go on and on and on. But the reason I've invited him here today to be honored is a couple of things. One, hearing his tremendous story of his service and his honors that he received in his time in the military. And we always look at what veterans do beyond their military career to make them such good members of this Commonwealth, citizens of this Commonwealth. And he has gone on to do a number of very high-profile cases. He has, and in fact, I must humbly admit that the first case that I was ever involved in after I graduated from law school was working with Mr. Tolliver. So with that, I'll yield the floor to him to give his comments here today. And thank you for being here with us. We certainly honor you for your service in the military and to the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Well, thank you very, very much. But
Mr. Tolliver, is that green light on your microphone? Can you push that little button right there? It's on?
Yeah.
Perfect. Just pull it a little closer to you. That'd be great. Thank you.
This?
Yes, sir. And can you introduce yourself for the record, even though we did? We have to have it kind of in that microphone.
All right. My name's Phil Tolliver. It's spelled Taliaferro. And I have known Ed for a long time. And he's only, though, helped veterans for about 30 years. And that's one of the reasons that I really think he's a fantastic person, because he's done what a great job for the military in our community. And he's traveled all over the country to represent them. It's been amazing. I got brainwashed when I was young. My father was in World War I. Stupidly volunteered at age 28 when he was out of the draft, but volunteered anyway. Top sergeant, went over and fought in the Battle of Verdun, and he always told me, the men eat first, you eat last. Always take care of the men. Then my uncle, who also went to Center College and played football, then went to the Naval Academy and was there for in the Navy for over 30 years. So I joined back in 1962 and got out of the, got my lieutenant JG, because the lawyers didn't start out as ensign, they started out one step ahead. And I was in the Philippines and Subic Bay and Vietnam. And I was a shore patrol officer, which is, for those of you who haven't been in the Navy, that's military police. So I was a Navy lawyer and military police, and sometimes in Olongapo, which is this town right next to Subic Bay, there'd be 30 to 40,000 sailors and Marines on one street at one time, and they were only allowed to go into the bars, 100 bars on each side. And this is hard for maybe you all to understand, but sometimes they drank alcohol, and it was crazy because as a shore patrol officer, and they're only going to those bars, I almost got killed a bunch of times. But because I was a famous 170-pound tackle for Center College, and I got to play sometimes up to 5 minutes if we're really far ahead, and you'd have to be a little crazy to do that. And so, as a shore patrol officer, military police, it was crazy. And then this one night, I was officer of the day on the base, which was very boring because it's, just nothing happening there. And they had a BLT. For those of you who don't know what a BLT is, it's a battalion landing team. And they had 1,300 Marines that would float around all over Southeast Asia. And for some reason, they got in trouble every place they'd gone. It's hard for me to understand that a Marine would do something like that. And so they wouldn't let them go into town. They let them go into the enlisted man's quarters. And they started fighting each other at about 11 o'clock that night. And they played the Star Spangled Banner twice. And it stopped them 2 times. The third time, it didn't stop them. I got the phone call at 11. I was in uniform, and I roared over there. It took me about 3 minutes to get there and started grabbing and throwing and pushing them around. And it took 45 minutes, and it broke it up. And they left, and I was all pumped up, had a little blood on me, and walked out about 6 steps, and my sixth sense kicked in, and I roared to the left for about 20 steps, running as fast, and I dove on the back of a bunch of Marines, knocked 2 or 3 of them down, spun around, and started pushing them back because they were trying to kill a Marine in combat books who was there, right there, laying on the ground. They were stomping him with their boots. And this one guy was probably 6'5" or 6'6", and he put his hand back and he said, "Man, you pushed me." And my daddy says, "Nobody pushes me." And I jumped up in his face I was psychotic. And I said, hit me, you. I used the bad words. I'll put you in the F word, the brig, which is a jail, for the rest of your life. And it unnerved him, and his hand went down, and just then, beep, one of his buddies, and it got this far. And the head of Marine Barracks had called out 20 Marines with fixed bayonets, and this one sergeant smashed him in the head with a billy club, and it went beep, like that. And it was crazy. So the next day, I got a call from the bird colonel of base. Had half his legs shot off in the Korean War, and he had adopted me because he thought I was crazy, and he was right. And so he had been just really my mentor for the 6 months that I was 6 months there when this happened. And he called and said, "Okay, be at the Admiral's office at 7 o'clock in a half an hour." I said, "Yes, sir." Well, I had been in 6 months, and I was really old because I was 26 out of law school, and I'd never met an admiral before. and it was like an admiral was God. And so we walked in there, and the admiral was sitting here, and the bird colonel was sitting here, and I was sitting here. And he said, "Admiral, I'm so embarrassed at the way our Marines acted. And I'm also embarrassed at the way Officer Tolliver acted. He violated the rules. Officers are not allowed to touch enlisted men. And I don't know whether to give him a letter of commendation or a letter of reprimand." He said, "I'm going to give him a letter of reprimand." So next day, I got this plaque. Said, "Honorary Marine Officer of the Day, Subic Bay." And I never could forget this. It was just in my heart forever. And I've got it framed up, when they made me a lieutenant, the bird colonel put one plaque here, and the Navy commander of the base put another plaque here, and there's a picture of that. And I just I can never forget those things. Served in Vietnam also, and was mostly just a Navy lawyer there. Had some crazy cases. I came back in '66, before you were born, Mr. Massey, and was a prosecutor for 5 years, and I represented all the police and then a lot of the military people ever since, the sheriffs and the troopers, and Adia's husband back there is a state trooper. And so people wonder why I'm such a police nut and a military nut. Well, I've I think, given you a little idea of why. I served on as the chairman of the state personnel board for only 15 years, from 72 to 87, under with 4 governors. And there was a little problem I had because they said I was a troublemaker. I never could understand, Mr. Chairman, why they would say something like that. And
Your reputation precedes you there, doesn't it?
and it
Mr.
even made
Taliaferro, can I ask? We do have quite a bit. Can this? We want to hear the rest of the story. If you would just kind of wind that up, that would be great.
I'm done.
All right.
I just
I tell you what, on that note, I'm going to send Representative Massey down to present you with the challenge coin. And I was telling Lieutenant Colonel Higgins that we have had challenge coins made on behalf of Veterans Military Affairs Public Protection for this reason, to present people that have been exemplary, even in fire and police and others too. Some of y'all have brought, it doesn't have to be just a veteran of our wars there. So we appreciate your service. If you'd step up, and I think he'd...
Representative Cook to come down because he's a Marine. I wanted to see if you still have what it takes, Phil.
As a Marine, I don't feel like I can take a picture with the shore patrol. It's just everything we all know. The rivalry continues.
We give you this, our challenge coin from the Veterans Committee, and we appreciate you for all you've done for not only the military and for our nation, but for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I know you continue to serve in a valiant way every day. At his young age now, I think of 84, he still goes to the office and tries cases and does stuff every day and trying to protect mankind. So we thank you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. This is why we like to honor our vets here. So any members, if y'all have a vet or someone in your community you'd like to honor, please get with us, and we will definitely do that. Representative Wheatley had just one comment, I think, and he can step back to the mic if he needs to answer something.
I'll just make a brief comment. Thank you, Mr. Tolliver, for being here. Thank you, Representative Massey. I can certainly verify a lot of the nutty part of the comments, and even in his recent years of law practice, he used to foul me unmercifully on the basketball court, but he also was one of my earliest mentors after being a firefighter and a fire chief, and then an attorney. He was there for me, and I appreciate all he's done. And he's done for the community in Northern Kentucky for decades, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All righty. Well, we are going to move on. We have our first bill. We have them in the order we're going to actually be presenting them. So Representative Josh Bray, if you would please take the floor. We're going to be hearing House Bill 29. Please introduce yourself for the record. You know the deal about the green light, and proceed when ready.
Sure. Josh Bray, representative of 71st District. It's good to be here again. Over the interim, we had discussed what is now House Bill 29, and I have that before you now. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So House Bill 29 is a bill that would designate the state of Kentucky as a Second Amendment sanctuary state. The concept behind this bill isn't anything new. As a matter of fact, there have been 15 states around us that have enacted similar legislation, including Tennessee and Missouri. Nearly every county within the Commonwealth has enacted similar resolutions. At my last check, 115 out of the 120. Over the past year, we've seen an increase in rhetoric from Washington, alluding to potential firearm regulation going forward, including something going on right now that hasn't gotten a lot of attention here is the ban of pistol braces, which is a very popular accessory. Not through legislation, not through duly enacted laws, but by the simple interpretation or change of a regulation, we would have thousands of Kentuckians made into potential felons. There is nothing in this bill that would remove the ability of the federal government to enforce any new law or regulation. There is nothing in this bill that would prevent the General Assembly from enacting any new laws or restrictions on firearms.
Motion on the bill.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. I know we have just at least one question. If any other members, if y'all do have questions, we now have two questions. Representative Maddox.
Thank you, Representative Bray, for bringing this bill. I know that this is an issue that is very important to myself and a myriad of folks across the Commonwealth, but I had a question. If the entities that are contained within, if they violate this or if they do not comply, what happens?
So there actually isn't a penalty located within this bill. If you look at the way medical marijuana or recreational marijuana has been, it's regulated at the federal level. At the state level, we can come in, do our own thing, decriminalize it. This follows that same model. This just says no tax dollars can be done, and so it would be up to the court to throw out any charges.
Sure. And I think a lot of the hyperbole surrounding this bill on both sides of the issue, even if it's folks who are not in favor of making sure that we're protecting our right to keep and bear arms, or if it's folks who are saying that this is a weak or a half measure, I think that's hyperbolic. But that said, the Second Amendment preservation groups in the Commonwealth, one of the criticisms that they've had about this bill is that it's not enforceable and that some of the terminology is poorly defined. And I was just wondering if you would be open to the possibility of making changes as we move forward through the process, and in terms of making sure that we have some type of enforcement mechanism or potentially tie funding to it, or just to put some additional teeth to make sure we have the strongest version possible of this bill to pass.
Absolutely. And I haven't heard any criticism from any of the Second Amendment groups personally. I would love to work on it going forward.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, Representative Minter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative, I just had a couple of questions for you. In the introduction to your bill, you quite rightly cite Prince versus the United States and say that local or state law enforcement cannot be compelled to work with federal authorities, and that's absolutely right. But what if we turn that on its head? And the thing that concerns me is that many of our local law enforcement groups or state law enforcement willingly collaborate with federal officials. And for example, people who work with the ATF as task force officers that are lent by the local community in order to work on, violent crime issues that everybody in the Commonwealth agrees are major issues. And is also a way that many of our local law enforcement boost their incomes because they get extra money for working with the feds on stuff like this. My reading of this bill is that it's going to prevent local law enforcement or state law enforcement from willingly collaborating with federal authorities. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. So if you will look at Section 5 of the bill, subsection A, it talks about Section 5 of the bill talks about how there's nothing within the bill that would prohibit local law enforcement from working with the federal government, or, whether that be ATF or DEA or whoever that may be. It does, however, say that law enforcement, that they cannot, if it's law enforcement activity related to a federal ban on firearms, ammunition, or firearm accessories.
Okay, well, what if that is in fact the problem in a community? What if let's say you're in a part of Kentucky where you have a lot of gun violence, and your law enforcement, not your citizens, your law enforcement think this is something they need to be investigated. Aren't we tying law enforcement's hands by doing this?
So this bill only deals with new firearm legislation going forward at post January 1. So if it's any kind of assault weapons ban, if it's any kind of magazine capacity ban, ammunition ban, then absolutely, they with this bill they could not cooperate with enforcing a ban on firearms, ammunitions, or firearm accessories.
Okay. Just a quick follow-up. Is January 1 the effective date? I thought there was a different date in this bill.
This section shall be retroactive to January 1, 2021.
I think it says January 21st.
No, it said, I'm reading it verbatim. This section shall be retroactive to January 1, 2021.
Okay, so it works retroactively. Okay, well, that is a concern that this still might tie local law enforcement's hands, and I know that has happened in a couple of other states, so that might be something to look at going forward if the bill moves today. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do we have any other members that would like to comment? I had a suggestion that if this bill goes all the way through and gets all the way through, that you might consider running a resolution or so encouraging our economic cabinet to invite some of these manufacturers to locate in Kentucky. So
absolutely,
something to think about there. So we appreciate what you're doing there. All right, we're going to go ahead, and I have just texted our members on the other side, so hopefully they might be able to come over and record a vote, but we'll have Mr. Secretary please call roll.
Representative Blanton, Representative Dossett, Representative Duplessis,
Yes.
Representative Freeland,
Yes.
Representative Fugit, Representative Gentry, Representative Gooch,
Yes.
Representative Hart, Representative Cook,
Yes.
Representative Lewis,
Yes.
Representative Maddox,
Mr. Chairman, may I explain my vote?
Please.
Yes, I'm pleased to vote yes today, but I do look forward to ongoing conversations about how we can make this bill the strongest version it can be. Thank you.
Representative Massey,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative Minter,
It's a pass for today, and it's a pass for today, and I am concerned about the way that it may tie local and state law enforcement's hands, whether it's intended to or not. Thank you.
Representative Sharp, Representative Stevenson,
No, may I explain my vote? My concern is we are limiting the ability of government officials to do their job. We put them in a terrible bind, and it leaves it open as to whether or not they could actually be prosecuted for just doing their job later when we amend it to add a penalty. So my vote is no.
Representative Tackett Lafferty.
Yes.
Representative Wesley.
Yes, and I'd like to explain my vote. One, I'd like to say I'm a proud Marine Corps veteran. Appreciate this, Representative Bray. I thought the Second Amendment would be enough for not only our nation but our state. But I just appreciate what you're doing. I am a yes. Thank you.
Representative Wheatley.
Pass.
Chair Thomas.
Aye. All right, Mr. Secretary, can you please call roll with a few that just walked in the door there? Again, we're going to go back through because we had at least 4 members that come through.
Representative Blanton.
Aye.
Representative Dossett. Representative Fugit.
Yes.
Representative Gentry. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Sharp.
All right, thank you. It will pass. We'll look forward to hearing it on the floor, and we appreciate your testimony there. So we are getting ready to hear House Bill 3. I'm looking, we have 40. If we can keep each side holding to about 20-25 minutes, so we do have a numerous amount of people that would like to speak, either for or against. So if y'all want to kind of make sure, we're going to keep it within about a 25-minute period. At 11:25, we will be voting on this measure. So at 11:25, so we have about 50 minutes. So at this, I'm going to go ahead and let Representative Tate introduce yourself, and then there is a committee sub on this. So introduce yourself, and we'll see if we can adopt the committee sub.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Chairman Walker Thomas, and also members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss House Bill 3 with you today, humanity and healthcare.
Do we have a motion for the committee sub? Got a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the committee sub is in front of us. And Representative Tate, we're going to do it a little bit backwards. We're going to go ahead and call, and I'm not sure who wants to speak first or so. We're going to have everyone speak for about 25 minutes. If you signed up, here's the ones I have. I have Michael Johnson, Christopher Harlow, Jackie Granjon. Okay. Anna Peterson, Tamara Weeder, Brenda Rosen, and Robin Kunkel. Now, is there any particular order y'all would like to go? If come on around there and take a seat at the table. There's a couple seats we might have to, I don't know if we have another one we can pull up or anything. We'll have to rotate people in.
Is in the all black. I don't know if she's signed up to speak. I don't think so.
All right, so we got, y'all kind of lead it and rotate them in, and if there's someone here we missed or something like that, but we got about 25 minutes. So if you don't mind, whoever's speaking first, please introduce yourself. Make sure that green button is on, and introduce yourself for the record, and we'll let you just kind of keep things flowing. Is the mic on? It is?
There we go. Okay. My name is Michael Johnson with the Family Foundation. You're speaking on behalf of House Bill 3, Humanity and Healthcare Act. So, Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for the chance to speak briefly on this important issue. The Family Foundation is thankful for Representative Tate's leadership on House Bill 3. and its desire to restore the public's trust in the medical profession. Informed consent, sanitary and adequate operating space, the doctor-patient relationship, and a commitment to do no harm is all essential to that public trust in the medical profession. The Humanity in Healthcare Act uses documentation and reporting requirements to ensure that surgical abortion centers within the Commonwealth maintain the bare minimum standards that the women of the Commonwealth deserve. Prohibiting the direct delivery of abortion-inducing drugs through the mail ensures that every woman's health and safety is prioritized and that the doctor-patient relationship is honored. Upholding the medical professional's sacred oath to do no harm by treating human remains with dignity and respect that is deserved is also an important step. Our women who face unplanned pregnancies deserve to have these measures in place. Respecting the doctor-patient relationship, restoring the public's trust in the medical profession, and honoring the oath to do no harm are all matters that should unite us here in Kentucky. And it's a reason that we have seen our supporters send over 1,500 emails in the past 48 hours in support of House Bill 3 and the Humanity in Healthcare Act. So I would urge you today to support House Bill 3. And thank you again, Representative Tate, for your leadership.
All right, thank you. We're trying to balance it up, fours and maybe opposed, so we're keeping track of time. So some of the other speakers, if y'all want to, I think y'all were doing so. Kate, do you want to kind of round up whoever you had to speak there? And yeah, okay, good deal.
Hello, good morning.
Is that green light on? Push that button there.
It's been a while since I've done this. So
there you go. Introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, representatives. My name is Christopher Harlow. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Board of Pharmacy. I am speaking today neither in support nor opposition to House Bill 3, but rather to provide comments or rather some concerns about the language in House Bill 3, if that's okay. Really, just to start, I think that there's some conflicting language or confusion around the application of this program to the Kentucky Board of Pharmacy. First, it appears that there's language that a qualified physician would be required to provide the abortion-inducing medications. So we're questioning if pharmacists will ever be dispensing these medications. So to that end, we're questioning the application to the Kentucky Board of Pharmacy. Next, regarding the Board of Pharmacy providing this program, there appears to be some concerns related to the cost factors and the funding that's not listed in the bill. For example, the Board of Pharmacy we do inspections of pharmacies and pharmacists and manufacturers. And so inspections, the certifications, the tracking, and a complaint portal that's mentioned would be on the Board of Pharmacy. And currently there's no funding support for this, and this would require a structural change and a massive amount of resources for the Board of Pharmacy to administer that. Next is really regarding the concerns regarding the tracking of drugs entering the state and the mandatory audits. The Kentucky Board of Pharmacy does regulate manufacturers, but manufacturers in Kentucky. We do not regulate out-of-state manufacturers, nor do we track drugs coming into the state. While we could make prohibitions, there's really no way of effectively tracking this information. We also do not currently automatically audit any licensee or permit holders, requiring an audit of all pharmacists, physicians, manufacturers, and distributors within 90 days. After certification is just not possible with that large allocation of resources that we don't currently have, and our inspection staff is currently at capacity. There is concern regarding regulation of physicians. The Kentucky Board of Pharmacy, we do license pharmacists, but not physicians. So that really would fall under the Kentucky Board of Medical Licensure, not the Board of Pharmacy. So we do not license physicians. While we could develop a certification program, that really comes into question the authority of what the Board of Pharmacy would have over physicians. This would be granting new jurisdiction of the Board of Pharmacy. And again, we just don't have the resources to do that currently, so we would ask for additional resources. And next is regarding the state-operated REMS program. It's our understanding that the FDA already has a robust REMS program for dispensing mifepristone. And so this appears to be a duplication of a program. So so we have questions about how that will be implemented in regards to how the FDA is already administering that program and how our state program would be different. I mentioned already the complaint portal, and so we have questions as far as how to manage that with our current, would we investigate every single complaint? Our current regulations that follow the investigation process, this is not built into that, so we're not sure how it would be feasible to investigate every complaint, particularly because we've seen other states have this portal, and there's a lot of complaints that come in that are not relevant to the abortion-inducing drugs themselves or the process of this program. Lastly, we do have concerns regarding the enforcement of this simply because of the current jurisdiction of the Board of Pharmacy. So I'm happy from the Board of Pharmacy standpoint to work with legislators on addressing any potential language for the bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Are there any members? We'll try to keep them at a minimum since we have, but Representative Stevenson?
Thank you for being here. And I want to make sure I understand what you said. Currently, the pharmacy board is not set up to monitor doctors.
Correct.
Okay. And in essence, some of the stuff that's in this bill is a duplication of what's already present in other Kentucky organizations.
So our understanding is the REMS program that's described in this bill, and this is my understanding after reading the bill, there is an FDA, a federal program through the FDA that has that regulates this medication. So our question after reading this language of the bill is how would our program be different, and how would that look and what resources be allocated to that?
Okay, thank you. And the complaint line, are you set up anyway? How I heard you say you're not set up to do a complaint line. You're not set up to fulfill what's in this statute.
We do
and
not,
you would like to work with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just don't have that structure in place currently. Right now, our complaints may come in over the phone or by email, but we do not have a portal set up. We do not have the technology in place.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Okay, make it quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for testifying for us today. Were you or the Board of Pharmacy consulted at all for this legislation?
So I just started my position January 16th. I have not spoken with any legislature regarding this bill yet.
Okay, and so but you're willing to work with the bill writers or to work out these issues?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Representative Wheatley, the sponsor has notified, and she got an email from them this morning, so they're going to work on some things too. So maybe we can keep the process coming out of the committee and go that route. So, all right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's now we got them. They're ready to go there. And I think most of y'all know the routine. If you can get to a microphone and at least introduce yourself as 3 mics and 5 chairs there. We got about 15 minutes or so if y'all kind of want to keep that kind of in mind there.
Hello, committee. My name is Tamara Weeder. I'm the Kentucky State Director for Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates. I'm a woman of Jewish faith, and actually my husband is currently deployed overseas, serving over 23 years in the U.S. Army. I'm here today in strong opposition to House Bill 3. This bill piles on a long list of abortion restrictions, none of which are based in medical best practice and patient safety, and all of which will harm abortion patients and providers. Kentucky has gone above and beyond to restrict access to abortion. Politicians have already put in place a myriad of discriminatory, medically unnecessary barriers to abortion care, such as forced ultrasounds, waiting periods, and biased anti-abortion counseling requirements. Last year alone, the General Assembly passed 3 bills attacking abortion access. On top of all of these existing restrictions, this bill piles on a long list of additional requirements that would make it even more difficult or even impossible for Kentucky patients to get the care they need. Years of medical research and studies have demonstrated that legal abortion is one of the safest medical procedures in the United States, with low mortality and complication rates for patients. In fact, the overall abortion complication rate is approximately 3 times lower than that for wisdom tooth extraction, and about 3 to 4 times lower than for a tonsillectomy. Studies show women in the U.S. experience major complications less than 1% of the time. Given abortion's incredibly strong safety record and the fact that it is already more regulated than almost any other medical procedure in our state and country, it is important to understand that none of the requirements in this bill are backed by medical best practice or supported by leading medical organizations. For example, the restrictions on medication abortion directly contradict the FDA's updated recommendations for medication abortion. In December, the FDA followed the available science and removed the medically unnecessary requirement that medication abortion be dispensed in person, a requirement that does not apply to any other drug that patients can safely take at home. This change was based on the overwhelming evidence, decades of data, and consultation and support from medical experts in this field. Medication abortion is a safe option that gives patients more control over their own health care. For some patients, medication abortion is actually safer and medically preferable option. For some, for some with, for some, medication abortion may be medically indicated for patients who have certain uterine anomalies or large uterine fibroids. The bill undoes the progress that was made even with the FDA's recent changes and takes our state backwards, forcing Kentucky patients to use an outdated standard of care that pushes abortion out of reach for many. It also imposes unprecedented state-level oversight over a drug regimen with a proven safety record, creating a duplicative and onerous FDA-like oversight program that is the definition of government overreach, and it has nothing to do with protecting patient safety. It will only make it more difficult or even impossible for Kentuckians to access medication abortion. Additionally, this bill expands existing requirements for providers to give patients information about the so-called abortion reversal, an unproven procedure that is opposed by major medical associations and requires the state to promote and help refer patients to providers who may help with this fraudulent, potentially unsafe procedure. There is no legitimate scientific or medical evidence to suggest that abortion reversible is possible. Like the rest of this bill, this requirement directly contradicts the recommendations of the nation's leading medical experts, and in doing so, it'll put patients at risk, making them unwitting participants in an unethical experiment when the state directs them to make-believe medical care. In addition to harming patients, this bill also targets abortion providers with provisions that will open them up to increased harassment and intimidation. This bill requires the state to publish the names of every medication abortion provider in Kentucky on a state-run portal, essentially creating a hit list for anti-abortion extremists. Since 1977, there have been 11 murders, 26 attempted murders, 42 bombings, 189 arsons, and thousands of other criminal incidents directed at abortion providers. In recent years, abortion providers have already faced an increase in harassment designed to disrupt care, ranging from trespassing to death threats. Publicly listing the names of all abortion providers will only open them up to further harassment. This bill will allow any member of the public to submit anonymous complaints about abortion providers, regardless of whether that person received care or has any legitimate basis to file a complaint. This provides yet another tool for anti-abortion activists to harass providers, and it will also likely create a significant burden for the state. When an extreme anti-abortion group in Texas launched a similar portal to allow members of the public to complain about abortion providers, it became a magnet for fraud and was flooded with thousands of false complaints. This bill requires the Board of Pharmacy to investigate and issue a finding for each complaint submitted, however fraudulent, wasting scarce resources to give a platform to anti-abortion activists. Taken as a whole, it is clear that the components of this bill are designed to be as onerous as possible for abortion providers and patients. We need to be clear that these restrictions won't make patients safer. Instead, they will push abortion out of reach for many in our state and lead to worse health outcomes for pregnant people, children, and families. What Kentuckians need right now is not more restrictions on care, and we urge you to please oppose this bill and focus on pressing needs of everyday Kentuckians across the state. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Good morning. My name is Hannah Peterson, and I am a practicing OBGYN here in Kentucky. I address you today not only as an advocate, but as an expert in women's health care. I am here to plead with you for the protection of the essential care that I proudly provide to my patients in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Each day, I see patients in a variety of different scenarios, those excited to embark upon their motherhood journeys, and those for whom this simply is not an option for a multitude of reasons, be they financial, emotional, or physical. The choice is most often not black and white. However, there still exists a choice today. As part of the oath that we take as physicians, we vow to provide evidence-based, compassionate direction and care to our patients. The trust created between a physician and her patient is one of the most unique things about my profession, and it's something I proudly take to heart. A bill which requires physicians to provide false information to our patients is something we simply cannot stand for. This action undermines the intelligence and the dignity of the patients we serve at a time when they already feel disempowered and judged. The HB3 Omnibus Bill also poses a direct threat to the safety and well-being of abortion care providers. By creating a public registry of abortion providers, we violate the constitutional right to privacy and openly encourage the defamation of these brave providers. The politicization of abortion care intrudes upon the private and delicate relationships between reproductive health care providers and our patients. It creates fear and shame and perpetuates harmful stigma in the reproductive health care realm. Elective termination of pregnancy, specifically the use of medication-induced abortion, is one of the safest outpatient procedures that we provide, far safer than childbirth, with complications far less than 1% nationwide. With this, I wholeheartedly urge you to vote in opposition of HB3 Omnibus Bill today. Thank you.
My name is Robin Kunkel. I've lived in Kentucky all my life, and I would like to share my story with you today. I'm a parent to my stepdaughter, who came into my life rather suddenly and made me realize that I wanted to be a mother. This was after years of thinking, maybe someday, but definitely not right now. Even early on in the relationship, I knew my partner was somebody I could co-parent with well, and a few years later, we decided to add another little one to our family. I soon became pregnant, and we were overwhelmed and overjoyed. We anxiously waited to see our baby at my first ultrasound appointment, only to be told the OB didn't see anything in my uterus. Devastated, we left, believing the most likely scenario was that I had already miscarried. A few days later, I returned for a checkup to make sure I wasn't just earlier in the pregnancy than we thought. But this time they noticed bleeding near my right ovary, and I was told I had an ectopic pregnancy. This means the fetal tissue was stuck in my fallopian tube and that I needed to go straight to the hospital in case it burst. Not only is it incredibly painful for a fallopian tube to rupture, it destroys the tube and decreases the chances of conceiving in the future. A day later, my hormone levels had dropped, and it looked as though my body would abort naturally. But unfortunately, 1 week later, my hormone levels rose significantly, and I had to return to the emergency room. And it was the worst pain of my life. The fetal tissue had continued to grow where there wasn't room, and it was devastating, both mentally and physically. I scheduled a surgery to end my wanted pregnancy. I scheduled an abortion. Following the procedure, I was relieved to feel that my pain was completely gone when I woke up. I was lucky to have a skilled surgeon and one familiar with that particular surgery, and I was lucky that my doctors caught it when they did. Because we discovered the ectopic nature of the pregnancy at around 10 weeks, my doctor was able to save my fallopian tube, and this gives me full fertility potential when my partner and I decide to try again. A delay in care due to things like legal restrictions, doctors who are afraid of being held liable, and providers in hospitals that can deny reproductive care would have meant prolonging my mental and physical suffering, as well as a lower likelihood of getting pregnant again, which I really hope to do. When I hear people talk about abortion, especially those who are opposed to this aspect of reproductive care, I only hear stories portraying the pregnant person as selfish, erratic, and irresponsible, as if they're only thinking of this current moment and solely of themselves. But this isn't the case. Many women who need abortion care are thinking about the future, about the children we want to have, and about the children we will need to feed and clothe and house and give time and energy to. Some of us worry another pregnancy will not leave enough resources for the children we already have and love. We are also allowed to think of ourselves. Some of us know a pregnancy would keep us living in poverty or bind us forever to people who abuse us. Do we not deserve protection from this? We're more than incubators without feelings and opinions. Our lives are important and filled with potential. We count. We deserve access to quality healthcare at every stage of life, regardless of age, gender, size, or condition, which includes pregnancy. Restricting access to reproductive care tells pregnant people that they don't matter. And your job, your oath that you've taken, is to uphold the Constitution of our country and our state. This includes personal liberty. We are still the people we were before pregnancy, dealing with the same struggles and the same lives, but now we are treated like we shouldn't have feelings or opinions because our lives matter less than the potential ones we carry. And they shouldn't. The word person, as it was determined during Roe v. Wade, does not include unborn fetuses, but it does include me. Your obligation is to me and to all of us who have the potential to be pregnant. And we're telling you we need all options on the table. Our choice is ours, and it's none of your business.
We got about 5 minutes, so kind of pace it a little bit there, and remember to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Thomas and members of the Veterans Military Affairs and Public Protection Committee. My name is Jackie McGranahan, and I am a policy strategist with the ACLU of Kentucky, and thank you for allowing me to testify here today. I am here to voice our opposition of another restriction on abortion against the backdrop of several historic United States Supreme Court cases that threaten to eliminate access to abortion throughout our country. Clearly, the goal is to end all access to abortion for all people, regardless of their circumstances. The circumstances of the conception or the circumstances of the health of the pregnancy, or circumstances that could come up that none of us are aware of. What is most disturbing is to see the language in this bill that may require Kentuckians who have had medication abortions at home or miscarriages at home to then retrieve what their bodies have expelled and either return them to their medical provider or contact their local coroner and make arrangements. And it is not my intent to be graphic, but to be clear, our understanding here is that oftentimes people who have medication abortions or miscarriages at home have remains in their toilets or in their clothing. Although the sponsor of this bill has said that her intent is to make this measure very similar to Indiana's law, and with that in mind, I have provided each member of the committee a copy of Indiana's bill, and you can see that Indiana's law uses may, where HB 3 uses shall. And we do not believe that this was the intent, but regardless, this is where we are. Further, this bill would require the state to issue birth death certificates for every surgical abortion, regardless of the patient's wishes or how early the pregnancy occurred. This documentation not only requires parents personally identifying information, but the information of the alleged father. Requiring the state to issue a birth death certificate for every abortion with no consideration for the patient's circumstances or wishes could be a cruel way to stigmatize and publicly shame patients who have an abortion. This bill will also put patient privacy and safety at risk. Since such documents can be made public, a Kentuckian who has decided to have an abortion could have their personal information exposed. Again, we do not believe that this was the intent of the bill. And consequently, these regulatory requirements, on top of the reporting the state already requires for abortion, could impose a heavy burden on limited state resources without any meaningful public health or data collection purpose. Being a new parent is anxiety-inducing. Many Kentuckians are doing it without an income and without health insurance. Many of those are returning to a paying job, still can't afford childcare. I understand that many of you have genuine and authentic feelings and beliefs when it comes to an abortion. But I am speaking to everyone here today. Being a parent is hard. but I can tell you being a parent in Kentucky is even harder. And we should work together to ensure that all pregnant people have what they need to survive, if not thrive. And these moments of life and death, these moments that determine the trajectory of your family and your well-being, belong to the people. And I urge you to vote no on House Bill 3.
We've kind of run out of time, but I do want to let Brenda speak real quick.
I'll be quick.
It looked like you were ready to, if so, and then that way we've covered the whole list of everyone that spoke has wanted to. So go ahead, ma'am.
I appreciate that. My name is Brenda Rosen. I'm the Executive Director of the National Association of Social Workers.
Can you pull that mic there? Make sure the green. There you go.
All right, there
Thank
we go.
you. We got a few out in cyberspace there.
All right, sweet. Brenda Rosen, the Executive Director with the National Association of Kentucky chapter. I am here basically very quickly to point out that social workers follow an ethical code. This was written by the association that I represent over 60 years ago, and it basically says that we have the dignity and worth for all of our clients. We meet our clients where they are at. It is not our right to move anyone to where we think they need to be. We follow best practices. And I want to stress that our code of ethics states social workers respect and promote the right of clients to self-determination. This means that a person should, without government interference, be able to make decisions about reproductive and sexual health. It also means that we support the whole spectrum of abortion access, neonatal and prenatal and postnatal care for Kentucky women. I spent 40 years as a social worker, 30 of those years working with people, children and adults of all ages dying of cancer. I've had conversations with people about having to make the toughest life choices. And as a social worker and as representatives, all of my people up here, we have got to respect the dignity and worth of people, children and women who are facing an unplanned pregnancy without feeling shame, guilt, or blame. Thank you.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it. Ms. Stevenson or Representative Stevenson, can we go ahead and hear the other testimony? And ladies, would y'all be able to hang out until we can? Okay. And then if we need to call them back up, we will. But we'll try to get to the questions at the very end. So Representative Tate and whoever might be speaking, I'm assuming for the bill. And we'll go ahead and I think everyone will still be available for questions in a sec.
Yes. The doctor had to sign off. I want to read his testimony. Okay.
Give us just a sec. She's pulling up. Was all committee members able to cast a vote that needed to on HB 29 a second ago? Is there any others that came in late? If not, I think we're good.
Do you want this chair? One knee in here. No, I just need to straddle this thing. Okay. Sorry about that. Is that all right? Okay. Be comfortable. Yeah. Yes. Come up here. And she called it an abortion. Yes. It was heartbreaking. Yes. Oh. I need to mention that. Yeah, me too. Okay. Okay. Is it too what you say? Try not to no. Sure you don't want this chair? Oh, sure. No, fine. All right, you can have it. It's got the logo and everything. You got it. I got the kids' chair. I'm teasing.
few technical difficulties. Let's see if we can. I tell you, Representative Tate, can we start even without him? Do we have other speakers that we can rearrange or something, or without the presentation, and we'll get to it as soon as we can?
Yes, sir. That's fine.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And once again, please introduce yourself. I know you already have, but you have some new guests.
So I'm Representative Nancy Tate, and I represent District 27, Meade and Hardin counties. If everyone else would like to introduce themselves, please.
Make sure that green button's on.
My name is Katie Glenn, and I represent Americans United for Life, a nationwide pro-life organization.
Hello, my name is Susan Liebel. I'm with the Susan B. Anthony List, another nationwide pro-life organization.
Good afternoon. Adia Wishner, former state representative. It's an honor to be back here today, but executive director of Kentucky Right to Life.
So for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and review the different elements of the bill, and then I'm going to ask each one of our guests to speak. So basically, the elements of the bill are updating current law impacting parent consent and protection of minors. The judicial bypass guidelines that are currently in place, we are actually strengthening them. The dignified care for the terminated remains of pregnancy loss, the updated reporting pregnancy termination statistics, and the chemical medical pregnancy termination health guidelines, and no taxpayer funding of abortions in Kentucky. So if I have the opportunity, I will speak in depth and length for each one of those elements, but I want to give our guests the opportunity.
I'm going to basically, again, say thank you. Thank you to the co-sponsors of this bill, members of the committee, and to the Pro-Life Caucus, everyone who's collectively worked on this major piece of legislation. Awesome. 5 important points of pro-life legislation wrapped into one. But we have a physician that was going to be with us today. He's an emergency room doctor, and he's texted me his testimony, and I'm going to try to put these glasses on and read that to you. But I think you'll hear his experience as an emergency room doctor, because part of this bill we'll talk about is about the changes in a very risky business, and that's mail order abortion in these early abortion pills. So I'm going to go on and share that now with you, if I may. Dr. Tyler Johnson is an emergency room physician in Indiana, and his testimony is my job as an emergency room physician to ensure the safety and health of our patients. We have an emerging problem over the last few years with concerns the marketing and distribution of pills for abortion. There is this readily easy access over the phone and internet and through the mail. The medications in question, mifepristone and progesterone antagonists that kills the preborn baby, and the second pill that contracts the uterus for expulsion of the recently deceased preborn baby within the mother. This recent trend championing these medications as safe and essentially risk-free is incorrect. This is far from the case. They are main commonly seen complications that are not minimal. Pain, bleeding, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, chills are commonly seen in the ED. Several complications which are life-threatening or may be life-threatening are hemorrhage, infections, sepsis, complications of an ectopic pregnancy which cannot be detected while at home without an ultrasound, and incomplete abortions, or when the patient takes the medication later in their pregnancy than they thought they were. Not only do these pills end up killing the preborn baby, but there is a real unexaggerated concern for the mom and the pregnant mom. In the emergency room department, we see complications. Fortunately, we do not always have the full story, and women do not always share that they took these medications. This makes it difficult to track and measure complications from these abortive medications. I have women coming in hemorrhaging near death after being told these medications were safe. I have had women come in post-abortive with severe infections. I am purposeful with women who have signs of possible abortion complications to ask about the pill complications. Do not allow people to talk about quality of health care and then step aside from their oath as a physician. We track many medications more closely. Internet pills make this problem extremely troublesome and particularly dangerous in this arena. As physicians, we should be troubled by the underlying problems with pill abortions, and it is not responsible health care. I would also share in my conversations with him just quickly on complications, and I think our other guests may speak about it. Without proper screening, when a woman comes in who comes to the abortion clinic and knows she's pregnant, or is pregnant and goes to her physician, the most common screening that is done besides blood work and test and an ultrasound early in pregnancy within the first trimester is for Rh negative. This bill also includes the importance of testing women to assure that they're not Rh negative, because the complication is not just in that pregnancy or that pregnancy loss, miscarriage, or abortion, but is the pregnancies that follow, which could end in miscarriage or future pregnancy loss. I'm going to end my testimony now. We've got some great speakers to move forward, but thank you for the opportunity to share Dr. Johnson's testimony.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. In my role with Americans United for Life, I travel around the country and speak about these issues with lawmakers all over the place, and I'm really glad to see Kentucky taking seriously this important issue. I'd like to speak for a minute about what the FDA did in December. I think there's been a little bit of confusion. The FDA did not remove all REMS, which are the regulations on dangerous drugs. These are regulations put on a drug, if you think of something like Accutane, a drug where there are known complications and it cannot be given over the counter. What they did was they removed the in-person dispensing requirement. This was done based on politics. The FDA, just a few months before that, in the Trump administration, had gone all the way to the United States Supreme Court to defend the in-person dispensing requirements. This was a completely political move based on the desires of the abortion industry and not based on the medicine. And we know that because in 2016, under Barack Obama, the FDA removed complication reporting requirements for all complications except for death. So the same data that they say means that there are no complications, we only have no data because the FDA stopped collecting it 5 years ago. We know when we look at data from European countries where they have government-funded healthcare and much better data nationwide than we do, because we have a 50-state patchwork, that complications can be as high as 6% under the first 10 weeks and go up much higher every single week of pregnancy. And in the United Kingdom, they've recently reversed their male abortion system after 2 years because they've had EMTs and doctors in emergency rooms complaining about how high those complications are. So that's what we're trying to get to here, is better data in Kentucky so that you can make public policy based on what's actually going on. So I appreciate hearing from the doctor. I'm sorry he can't be here today. What this does is requires that Kentucky women see Kentucky doctors to be screened for ectopic pregnancy. And I was so sorry and heartbroken to hear that story. But that was a best case scenario, that she was seeing a doctor regularly. She saw a doctor multiple times. If you go on one of these websites, or even if you go to an abortion clinic and they do not do an ultrasound to screen for ectopic pregnancy, a woman may actually think that she is having a normal chemical abortion where the FDA says you should expect to bleed for 9 to 16 days while she's suffering an ectopic rupture, and she may not make it to the emergency room in time. We recently saw a story out of India where a woman thought she was having a normal chemical abortion and she died at her home from ectopic rupture. This is why we need to keep this serious procedure in local doctors' offices, in local hospitals, and not use these online companies who cannot possibly test for contraindications, and they cannot possibly provide complication management. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll hand it over to my colleague.
Thank you very much. This is a very timely move for the state of Kentucky to lock in the former FDA protocols that were in place for over 20 years to provide safety for women because of the pharmaceutical actions of these. I just want to clarify that chemical abortion, as we talk about it, is the dangerous 2-drug regimen that some people call RU-486, or you've heard of that. This is not the morning after pill, which is available in all pharmacies now. This is not miscarriage care. This is defined as the use of drugs specifically to cause an abortion. And until the FDA's decision 10 weeks ago, it has not been available at pharmacies. And going forward, because of the FDA's decision 10 weeks ago, if a pharmacy does want to begin to carry this or dispense this upon prescription, just like other drugs, it has to be certified by the manufacturer. So there's still a little FDA requirement, even for pharmacies, but they're new to this scene. They're not dispensing or giving out abortion drugs as we know it today. So that is one reason why there is a certification program built into here, because if doctors or if pharmacies in Kentucky do get certified to do that, you'll never know who they are. You won't know who's doing it in your state. You can't call the manufacturer, not just going to tell you. So it's just it mimics that just as a certification, so you can track and follow and know in your state what's going on. These drugs are for aborting pregnancies further along on larger babies than say the morning after pill, if you will. To abortion-minded women, it seems easier just to take pills, take drugs, but it's actually fraught with the medical landmines that we've alluded to. It's more than 50% of all abortions nationwide. Last week, the Guttmacher Institute actually released new statistics that it is now 54%. It's over half of all abortions in our country. In Kentucky, chemical abortion has now outpaced surgical abortion. The newest figures for 2020 show that in Kentucky, chemical abortion was 51%. And this new frontier has really snuck up on states. Abortion activists have been quietly building a whole new business model to target young women where they live most, on their phones, to click and to get the drugs by mail. That makes every bathroom, in your home, or the dorm bathroom has become the new abortion clinic, as we like to say. I think the good doctor that testified a minute ago would probably support one aspect of this, and that is that she would still be required to see patients in person to rule out pre-existing conditions and understand the impact that those drugs would have on that woman if she has any contraindications. So that is a main feature of House Bill 3. It also recognizes the business side, if you will, of the abortion industry, tracking the movement of the drugs, as I said, knowing who's certified. One of the things you may notice in here are bigger fines. Roe versus Wade was passed in 1973. States oversee and regulate the abortion stuff. There's no federal oversight of that. And today's abortion world is really more like big abortion pharma. This is corporate production, as well as maybe a doctor in his or her office. And so that's where all state laws, not just Kentucky, but a lot of our state laws are kind of old and have not kept pace with this and come up into today's big business pharma type of approach on abortion. You've already heard that abortion drugs are 4 times more dangerous for a woman than a surgery. A recent study just released that between 2002 and 2015, emergency room visits rose more than 500% after the chemical abortion functions that were producing complications. And then by 2015, there were 5 chemical abortion-related emergency visits for every 100 chemical abortion case. There are other facts I don't have time to cover, but one very important fact and one very important reason why the country of England just announced earlier this week, it is going to phase out telemedicine. And that is because boyfriends or sex traffickers are using this to cover up sexual abuse and or domestic violence. Also, they found that with their post office mail order abortion program, that ambulance calls were double and emergency room visits, because of a woman maybe got them at home and took them incorrectly and wound up getting very sick. There's more that I could say. I know that we're running out of time, but I think, as with a lot of things, we follow Europe, and we're about to see them turn around their experiment on telemedicine. This is an in-person type of procedure that contraindications and pre-existing conditions need to be carefully considered.
Motion on the bill.
I have a question.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have seconds. And I am going to, that it's 25 after, it's perfect, but I have already said that Representative Stevenson, I will honor a question from you, and I'm not sure which group, so someone else might have to step
If they
up.
could stay.
If
and
they could stay.
Dr. Peterson could come up. I just have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first
And
question.
anyone else have questions kind of catch my attention? We'll do questions for about 5 or 6 minutes or so, and then we're going to have to call a vote.
Thank you. Last week, we passed a bill to limit government interference with church services. Isn't this another government interference with the doctor-patient relationship?
I agree. This is absolutely a government interference with a very private.
Hit your mic. There you go.
Is it on?
It's a green button.
Yeah.
There you go.
I agree, Representative Stevens, and this is actually definitely government interference with the physician-patient relationship, which is one that is completely private.
And in the testimony, we heard that one doctor in an emergency room had saw problems. Was it 10,000 patients? Was it 10? Was it 5? Can you quantify that number and then comment on what you've seen?
So I personally cannot speak for that physician, but what I've seen in my practice, as a resident physician, I cover the emergency room while I'm on call on labor and delivery. We've seen very few complications from medication-induced abortions. Less than 1% of the medication abortions that are provided here in Kentucky, and that's on par with the national data from the last 22 years.
And under the current law, if a woman doesn't want an abortion, is she forced to get one?
No, absolutely not under any circumstance.
So it's a personal choice about how to live your life.
It is a personal choice. I myself, in my practice, offer all of my patients informed consent, which, as it is defined, is offering benefits, risks, and alternatives of every treatment that I offer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
May I add may I?
Yes, please, go ahead if you need to respond to that.
Yes, please, and thank you very much. There was a study recently conducted looking at actual Medicaid billing documents from 2000 to 2015, and looking at the complication rate a week or 2 weeks after a chemical abortion, a medical abortion. And between 2000 and 2015, the rate of complications seen in the emergency rooms based on Medicaid billing documents went up 500%.
All right, we do have a comment or a statement from Representative Duplessis, and right now I see no more hands going up, so this will be the last one, and then we'll let y'all each close with a closing statement, and we're going to we'll call roll in just a sec.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't realize I get to be the one and only. Thank you. I have a group of students that drove up today from a school to watch this proceeding, and to also participate in a rally later today. Thankfully, those parents made the choice for them to be born. Thankfully, all of us parents had that choice made. What I think has been lost so often in this argument about abortion and abortion rights is the right of that human that is inside that mother. And I heard one person make the comment that that's not a person inside of there. I'm not sure why the location of I'm not sure why the location of a fetus being inside the vaginal canal versus outside the vaginal canal has anything to do with its humanity. We had one person talk about an ectopic pregnancy. That is absolutely a dangerous thing for a woman. It can be life-threatening. And I can speak for myself, and I believe I speak for everybody on this committee. When the life of a woman is in danger, that is health care that needs to be taken care of. I don't think we're talking about that. So I'm not going to stand in the way if a woman has an ectopic pregnancy, that would be anyway prevented from being taken care of. What I want to make sure of is that when the rights of every human are monitored and maintained. The opening monologue from the first group that talked just really struck me when they said that, and Doctor, I think it was you that said that it's a very safe procedure and that there's very few deaths. Doctor, I'm sorry, but for me, there's about a 50% death rate in that room.
I was referring to death of my patients,
I
the woman in
understand.
question.
And that's where I think so much of us have a problem, is that we got to realize the humanity of the person that has the same rights that you and I do. And I know it's a tough call. I know it's a tough decision, but we can't lose sight of the humanity of everybody and the creation that they are. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to allow Dr. Peterson, if you want, just maybe a minute or two of anything you want to say, and then Ms. Wushner, if you would too, and then we'll close and we're going to call roll, okay?
I would just like to reiterate again that medication abortion, as far as I've seen in my practice, is far safer than any other procedure that we offer as obstetrician gynecologists, including the most common procedure that we take part in, which is spontaneous vaginal delivery. Complication rates over the last 22 years cumulatively with medication abortion are less than 1%, and that is data that we can provide to you. I'd also like to just state that I don't know of any other medication that has to be provided to a patient directly by a physician, including chemotherapy drugs, which can be provided easily by a nurse or a PA. I think that our tax dollars would be better spent monitoring and tracking the dispense of opioids, which cause far more deaths than medication abortion. I think that we could use our government resources and our taxpayer dollars for the greater good in that manner. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
All right, thank you. Representative Tate, do you want any time or Adia, either one of y'all?
I'll let it. Just when we spoke about the medical complications, and I'll just share from Dr. Johnson's point of view and from some of the emergency room doctors, not so much OB-GYNs, but just that they shared their concern is a growing trend. And when you start medically as a former hospital nurse and a hospital administrator, what happens is you start to see a pattern of trends. First you ask the question, why are we seeing so much bleeding? Why are we seeing these complications? And then you begin to delve into it more. And so this growing trend has raised a concern that they're issuing alerts to other emergency rooms so that they can start to be aware of what they're seeing, since it's quite different than what they've seen in the past. And it is concerning for young girls and women coming in. Secondly, I want to commend the members of the General Assembly. We often hear that there's not care for the woman after her child. You just passed this session, and it's now resting over in the Senate, House Bill 74, and it was a bipartisan bill extending Medicare benefits, Medicaid benefits to postpartum women for 12 months after delivery. So I want to really commend you, because that means so much. We've always kept taking care of the baby's health, but now you're extending that to also that mom who may need that special health care after her delivery. So I just wanted to, we often hear that there's nothing for the moms out there. So I wanted to say thank you for doing that.
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary, please call roll.
Representative Blanton.
Aye.
Representative Dossett.
Yes.
Representative Duplessis.
Aye.
Representative Freeland.
Yes.
Representative Fugit.
Yes.
Representative Gentry. Representative Gooch.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Cook.
Aye.
Representative Lewis.
Yes.
Representative Maddox.
Yes.
Representative Massey.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Minter.
Briefly explain my vote. It's actually more of a question. I don't know why you all did not bring a Kentucky doctor to testify about what's actually going on in Kentucky. The other side did, and that's troubling to me. If we're going to talk about Kentucky law, we've heard this Indiana bill. I heard it in Judiciary, I think a couple of years ago, Representative Tate. Again, I would like to have heard from a Kentucky doctor, not somebody out of state and not someone who's currently running for office out of state. So today it's a no.
Representative Sharp. Representative Stevenson.
Explain my vote. You know, under current law, if you don't want to have an abortion, don't have one. Just don't have one. And the pro-life is really pro-birth, because when the children are born, we have thousands of children in the healthcare, the foster care system that no one's taking care of. We have thousands of children being abused, and you're not bringing forth bills to end that. So take care of those kids and let women have the right to their bodies and the medical relationship they have with their doctors. I don't see any other area where we walk into a doctor's relationship and say, give him this treatment, give her this treatment. We just want to keep women under our thumb and not allow them to make decisions as if they're kids. And then the last thing is, this bill will make a child that's been raped by her father get his permission to get an abortion before she can even have one. What's he going to say? And then she has to navigate a legal system to get permission? Wow, that's how much we love our kids. Let's make them suffer and then suffer and then suffer again. So my answer is no. And take care of the people that we have here, and then get to taking care of the women that are in these situations that feel forced and compelled to do this.
Representative Tackett Lafferty. Yes. Representative Wesley.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
Yes. I've heard the word fetus mentioned a couple times in this meeting, and a lot of people refers to the word fetus being a ball of cells or a blob. It's a Latin word that means baby. We're talking about the life of a human being, a baby. That's the discussion today. It's not a ball of cells. It's not a blob. It's a life. And I also heard a comment mentioned to this whole committee that it's none of our business. Well, today we do make it our business, and we're going to vote yes. And I just pray that this goes through the House and the Senate, because I will speak for the unborn that doesn't have a voice today. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am a yes.
Thank you. Representative Wheatley.
No.
Chair Thomas.
Aye. All righty. It shall pass. We'll look forward to hearing it on the floor. Thank y'all for your testimony on both sides there. It was a well-heated debate. I am going to just real quick, Representative Dossett, I believe you need to record a vote for HB 29.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to record a yes vote for House Bill 29.
All right. We got it. Is there any other business in front of the committee?